Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and hit that all bell notification. In that way you won't miss any time I publish a new video. Alright, so what are we going to be doing today? Homemade apple pie. Okay, so we're going to add our 2.5 cups of flour to our food processor. I also added a half a teaspoon of salt to that. And we're going to pulse that for a while just to combine the flour with the salt. Okay, now we're going to add our cold butter. So we have about 8 ounces of cold butter, and we're going to add and pulse again. You want to pulse that to get a sort of like a crumbly texture. Now I'm going to add my ice water and apple cider vinegar to that slowly. So that was 7 tablespoons of ice water to 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. So when you add all of everything together, it should look like that. Now we're going to form it into our dough balls. We're going to have 2 dough balls. So because one is going to be the bottom of the pie and one is going to be the top of the pie. Okay, so we form it into the dough ball as you can see there. So we have one dough ball. Now I'm going to form the other dough ball. Everyone loves an apple pie, guys. Can't go wrong with apple pie. All right, so we have our 2 dough balls. Now we're going to wrap it in plastic wrap. I'm going to put it in the fridge. So we're just going to wrap it there. And we're going to put it in the fridge. Yeah, so we're putting that in the fridge while we work on our filling. All right, so time to make the filling. So in this bowl here, I have 10 medium-sized apples. So that's the size of the apples that I'm showing you that I use there. I have 10 apples there. I have 3 tablespoons of cornstarch, a half a teaspoon of nutmeg, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. I have 3/4 cup of sugar. We're going to be using 1 lime. And I also have some extra butter that I'm going to use for the top, which is optional. All right. So let's get to mixing our filling. So we're going to squeeze our 1 lime or lemon into the apples there. Then I'm adding the cinnamon and the nutmeg. And we're going to mix that well. All right, so we're just going to mix, combine. Now we're going to add our 3 tablespoons of cornstarch. And again, we're going to mix that well. I'm going to add our sugar. Now, of course, if you don't want to add sugar, guys, then you don't need to add sugar. If your apple is sweet enough and you don't want to add sugar, then, you do what suits you. All right, so we combine that well. Okay, so now we're going to roll out our pie dough because now we have to construct our apple pie. So we need the bottom part of the pie. So we just dust our surface with some flour. And we're going to roll it out. Roll it out so that we can be able to cover the bottom of the pie. Okay, so you might even want to flip the dish upside down over that to make sure, like what I'm showing you there, to make sure that it will cover the bottom and sides of your pie, So in other words, and you roll it out to suit that. Okay, so a technique for picking up the dough to put it into your dish is by rolling it on to your rolling pin. Okay, I was just trying to make sure and spread it out as much as I can. So you see what I'm doing there? I'm rolling the pie dough on to my rolling pin in order to transfer it to my dish. And now we just unravel it. There you go. Nice. So we have placed our dough into our pie dish. We just now have to press it down, as you can see there. All right, so we're going to form it to the sides of our pie dish. Now that that is formed, we can now put our filling in. So let's just get our filling in. And that's where the extra butter came in, guys. Like I said, you don't have to do this, but I added it. I decided to add it for extra flavor. So I'm just going to trim off now the sides of the dough there. Okay. So we're going to add what I had trimmed to the other dough bowl, and we now going to roll out for the top of our apple pie. All right, so again we do the same thing. We roll it onto our roll pin, our rolling pin, and then we place it over our pie dish. There you go. Tuck it in nicely. All right, I'm just going to tuck it under now. Man, guys, watching this, I am feeling for some apple pie right now. I love me some apple pie, I have to admit. Now, granted, now I cannot use regular flour anymore. So if I have to make this, I will have to make it with some gluten-free flour. All right, so we have to vent our pie so we don't have an explosion. So there I am creating slits in order to vent it. And then we're just going to use a fork and press down the sides to seal, as well as for aesthetic purposes. And we're going to brush a little more butter on the top because butter makes everything better. Why not? Okay, so now we're going to place the pie onto a sheet pan. In that way, if there's any drippings, it will fall into the sheet pan and not in your oven. We're going to put that now in the oven to bake for 1 hour at 375 degrees Fahrenheit. And after that, our apple pie will be finished. Enjoy!